Man, I love your content. It's Maria Franzoni, everybody. Hi, Maria.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Our first time together on screen. I haven't met you yet, even though I've been to the United Kingdom 4 or 5 times. Your content on social about what speakers should be doing to get booked and noticed and have their careers take off is extraordinary. And I think it comes from your depth and breadth of knowledge from running a speaker bureau, and now you're doing speaking yourself, correct?
I'm training speakers and occasionally invited to speak. Yes.
Okay. I think with the book, man, your speaking invitations are about to ramp up.
Certainly the podcast invitations are going well. Thank you, Michael.
Show us the cover of your book.
Oh,
Let's
let me grab it. Let me
have a
grab
look
it.
at it.
Yeah, because we're video as well. This is what really well on the podcast. It's orange on the podcast, and it's called the Bookability Formula, and the subtitle is what the 1% most book speakers do, and you can too.
I love it. And
Thank you.
the book sales are good. You had an initial, I saw you got some bestseller type thing for the first day,
I
or maybe.
did. I
Huh?
did. It actually went on for quite a few weeks, which I was really surprised. I was hoping and praying to get bestseller for an hour. And I was there ready with my camera to take a screenshot so I could have that screenshot. And it kept going. And so I'm thrilled. I didn't expect it.
Good for you. I'm old enough to remember, you maybe too, that, and I don't know if you track the New York Times bestseller list, but that's kind of where the, do you guys have a bestseller list over there in the UK?
We do. We have several that match that. Yes, but I don't think I'm ever going to be on any of those.
Well, it used to be, well, I don't know, I might disagree with you on that. I think this is all a takeoff of the New York Times bestseller list here in the States. And for that, I think you got on for the week. And then, of course, with Amazon and some of the other platforms, you can become a bestseller in a niche. You can become a bestseller for a day, an hour. It's good because then you get bragging rights, and sometimes that's all you need to get the uplift. The old saying, it takes more energy for a plane to take off than it does to stay in the air.
Absolutely. And also it's the fact I believe that your book shows up more if it's got a number one at any point. So it shows up more in the searches, which of course helps you.
Of course, yeah. I want to talk about your great advice, what brought me to you, it brought alerted me to you in the first place, which was your extraordinary, you're a very direct person, I think.
I am. I always have been. I think I got it from my dad, actually.
Okay. I'm direct too, but I don't know where I got it. My mom, I don't know where I got it. I think I kind of
But,
just developed it.
but you must have Italian roots, though. I think it's an Italian thing to be quite direct. Italians are very direct with each other, and you know exactly where you stand.
Yeah, there may be some of that. I also started to appreciate, like I grew up with guys like Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar.
Lovely.
I don't know that you'd argue that Zig or Brian are direct, but I started to learn the economy of words. Also, I came up through the music business where you had 3 minutes and 30 seconds to get the audience's attention. So I knew about that before I even knew about things like elevator pitches, the first 15 seconds of an introduction, and then you'd get these, as a rising speaker, rather than get full keynote opportunities, you'd get an opportunity to do what I call pop-up presentations. Would you please stand up and say a few words? I'm a longtime Rotarian. If you visited a Rotary Club, they'd ask you to stand up and talk about yourself. I mean, you can't go on and on. That's rude. So let's say the average person speaks at 150 words a minute. What words are you going to use? What word combinations? I think that's where I got it. And then
It's
as a
really
writer, you probably did this for your book, which was written just recently. You probably got into this wordsmithing, and the editing process alone is a way to tighten up the script and be more direct.
Oh, do you know what? The whole process for me was torturous. So, some people enjoy writing. It was torture because I could rewrite it another 10 times and still not be happy with it. And I just had to stop. I
Did
had
you
to
work
stop
with an
rewriting.
editor?
Sorry?
Did you work with an editor?
I had a copy editor after I'd finished writing it, and then I didn't like the copy editor. To go back and redo it again. So I'm a nightmare to work with, quite frankly, which is the opposite of what I encourage people to be. So yeah, no, I don't think I was much fun to work with when it came to doing my book.
Well, editors can be helpful because they'll tell you it's no good even if you have doubts. Of course, you're not supposed to fire the person that tells you stuff you don't want to hear sometimes, but I'm sorry it didn't work out with your guy or gal initially.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
What are you learning about, or what do you know about speakers coming up? If you could, let's just get the convo started. What is the single biggest mistake that speakers make in your view?
They don't test the market before they dive deep into their topic. They have a topic they're passionate about or something they want to talk about or an area of expertise, and they decide that's what they're going to talk about without actually checking to see how does it need to adapt to the market? How do they need to talk about it? Is there even anybody out there who wants to hear it?
Yeah, I've seen you post about relevancy, that just because you're passionate about the topic and you're good at it or you know a lot about it, doesn't mean people are necessarily interested in it, want to pay for it.
Yeah, that's the biggest mistake. The starting point is being relevant to a paying market if you want to be paid,
Yeah.
but you need to be relevant to an audience at any
Yeah.
point, really.
Hmm. What is this? They're trying to game the system. They think they're above all that. They're not thinking about the commerce of business, the dollar value of their. My experience is a lot of speakers have very poor, I won't say self-worth, but they don't value their talks very much.
I think they're too close to their work sometimes. And I think we're all very similar because going back to the book, when I wrote the book, I thought no one's going to read this or get anything out of it because you're too close to it. You think, oh, it's too simplistic, it's too simple, it's too basic. And when you're very close to your content, you can't value it because you know it too well. So you need somebody sometimes from the outside to look at it for you. And the point you made earlier about, the commercial aspect, I think many speakers don't come from a business background and will come from a different background. They might be athletes, they might be academics, they will be experts in their field, but because they haven't run a business, they don't realize that actually we have to think about it commercially and as a business if you want to make money out of it.
Well, for sure, we're all human, and we have foibles and temptations, and we don't do the things we're supposed to do. I remember a recent post of yours where you were talking about speaker behavior, what's right and wrong. There was apparently you were representing somebody or you knew of somebody that had accidentally slept with the meeting planner's daughter or something.
There's assistant, yes. It wasn't an accident. I'm sure it was completely deliberate on his part. Yeah, the assistant, yes, it was, yes.
That's why I
And
put
then
it in quotation marks.
having to deal with that, the aftermath of that was great. It didn't do his career very much good for a while, but he
Yeah,
brought it back.
yeah. But my point is that there's a lack of education in this. I mean, unlike a lot of disciplines like writing, you think about the arts, writing, dance, painting, um, playing a musical instrument. Uh, Speaking has very low barrier to entry. Somebody just wakes up one day and says, I've always wanted to be a speaker. And worse than that, Maria, is this lure of or attraction called adulation. That applause is intoxicating. I learned that in the music business. It's like heroin.
I don't know. I've not tried heroin. I have to take your word for that.
I haven't either.
You walked into that one.
It's on my to-do list. No, it's not. It's on my not to-do list.
Exactly. But no, you're right. I think people love the stage and you either love it or hate it, actually. I don't think there's an in between, really.
And the problem too is, when we leave the stage and we get that applause, the applause is perfunctory. Everybody gets applause when they leave the stage, even bad speakers. And all we'll hear is that applause. We don't hear the people that grumbled on the way out, that was average, or she didn't do it for me, he didn't do it for me. And I think we're really poor as speakers, as a lot, in digging deep for that type of feedback that can help us improve. What suggestions do you have for people, for speakers, for finding out how they can be better?
I think you have to ask more than once. when you've spoken and you say, how did I do to a client who's booked you or a member of the audience, they're going to give you the nice, polite answer. Then when you ask the next time, they say, well, you tell me a bit more, what was good, what was bad. They'll tell you a bit more. But I think the third time in asking, they'll probably then give you the correct answer. And I wouldn't ask other speakers personally because our speakers are very kind to speakers.
Uh,
I'd ask somebody who isn't a speaker, ideally a client person.
the same thing may be true for authors.
Yes.
I'm fortunate. I have a lot of friends in the business, so they'll send me their book when it comes out, and they say, "What do you think?" Well, it's already been written, published, and printed. It's wonderful. What am I going to say? I mean, nobody wants to hear their baby's ugly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I've been at a lot of head tables. They put the speakers together for some reason. So the speaker comes down from the stage. And by the way, they know I'm a speaker coach because we were chatting prior. That didn't help. And they sit down and they go, well, how did I do? I want to know how I did. Well, now is not the time to do the data dump, maybe later, but enjoy that time when you come off and celebrate your victories and feel good about yourself. And then a little bit later, get that negative feedback if there is any. I shouldn't say negative, constructive feedback.
It's always criticism, whether it's constructive or not, right? Though, but what's important, I think, is to leave that gap, as you said, not to do it then. Even with clients, when you go back to them, let them have time to reflect. I don't like it when people put a camera in someone's face in the audience straight after the session and say, give us an endorsement, give me a review, because I know that person has got no choice but to say something nice. But when you
Yeah.
go back and reflect and put something in writing, that's then when it's a really good testimonial.
Let's talk about testimonials because you've gotten some great ones, and I've seen video, not video, but social media posts that were testimonials that you may or may not have been involved with. I'll find out in a second. But my experience is that the video testimonials are the hardest ones to get. I mean, it's easy to collect them, but it's hard to get people who are A, good on camera, B, say what you want them to say because with video, it can go a lot of different directions. They can say you're the best thing since sliced bread, but their face isn't saying it. You don't have that problem with a written testimonial. Their tone might not be right. There are so many ingredients to a good positive video testimonial. I'll ask you straight up because we're marketers
Yeah, yeah.
and pull back the curtain, let people know what's happening. Were you involved in any way with the great testimonials that you've been receiving about the Bookability formula?
No, and I was completely blown away and surprised by them. No, although the people who wrote them have been trained by me as to what makes a good testimonial. But I didn't request them because I'm
Okay.
not a fan of video testimonials, and they know that. So,
Okay.
it was quite interesting that they did videos. I know social media loves them, whatever. I personally am not a fan of them because I prefer a written testimonial where I know who the person is and what the relationship is with the person that they're writing about. So
Right.
I don't like speakers giving testimonials to other speakers. I want to know it's a client that's paid them, for example. This is with my bureau hat on. So no, I didn't request them, didn't say anything to them, and I was completely gobsmacked. It was wonderful, really wonderful. So I'm going to keep them and use them, even though I don't like video testimonials.
Well, if they serve you, you should. You earn them. Um, so inside baseball on my end, when I solicit testimonials, and I teach people how to do this too, often, and I've been doing this now for 30 years, so I don't need another testimonial that says Michael is great. That doesn't serve me. I like it and I'm appreciative, but from a marketing point of view, it doesn't have much value. I already have a bunch of those. So I'll ask sometimes for something specific. Maybe I did something particularly well at a gig, and I'll say, "Do you think that went well in the gig?" And they'll go, "Yeah, it did." I said, "Maybe you could say something like that." I've been known to ask people to rewrite or read, not what is not rewrite, tweak the testimony that they've sent me. I've personally tweaked the written testimonial to correct spelling, punctuation, all figuring that my guy won't mind if I make him look a little bit more literate.
Yeah.
Is this all fair game in your world?
I think punctuation, spelling, absolutely, but I wouldn't. personally change any content. You might reduce it down instead of using the three sentences, you might use just the one.
Yeah.
So my approach is slightly different in that I'll normally ask a couple of questions that are very easy to answer. I ask them to write a sentence for each. And it's the last question is the one, but they're in flow by that point. So I'll ask them, why did you decide to work with me? Which we probably know already, but they might give me a slightly different answer. What did we do together? And then my final question is, what's been the impact? And that's the one that I want. That's the one that I want the answer
So you
from
find
because
yourself using that last sentence more often than
yeah,
the rest of the content.
yeah, because I want to know what's changed.
Yeah, I agree. What you're really looking for in the business, everybody is called a book blurb, kind of an older term now. Is that what they're still using over there? Book blurb?
I don't know that one.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
it's
younger than I think.
it's the soundbite that's on the back cover of the book, right?
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I
They
suppose
call
yes.
it something.
Yeah.
It's because a testimonial can be so many different things, but a blurb over here, a blurb is short, succinct, pithy, soundbitey.
Okay. I'm going to use that then. Blurb. I like that.
Yeah, well, you can educate the entire continent how to use it.
They probably all know, and it's just me. I missed
Oh,
that
I
bit. I
doubt
missed
it.
that lesson.
Uh, but again, there's the value of directness. You can't have a testimonial that warms up and then mentions three things and then summarizes. That's just not working as a testimonial. That makes it sound stilted and dictated.
Yeah. People don't have the attention span to read it all as well.
Yeah. What do you recommend for using humor in talks?
I love humor. I absolutely love humor in talks. I think it's really important. I think you've got to be careful and you've got to make sure that you don't insult anybody. So you've got to be a bit careful culturally in case you say something that's wrong. But my go-to people on humor are Tim Gard, who's one of your US speakers, absolutely brilliant speaker who uses a lot of props, is very, very funny, tells great stories, makes everything very visual.
Sorry,
And
did
the
you
other
just
person,
give me the person's name?
Tim Gard,
Oh, Tim,
Gard.
Gard.
Yeah, Gard.
Okay, we'll look him up.
Yeah, and then the other one to look up is Beth Sherman, who's also American, which I feel bad now because I haven't given you a Brit, and the British are very funny, but she's here in the UK. So what she does, she's brilliant at taking someone's speech and finding the funny in it, in that she says truth is funny. So you can tell you don't have to make things up. You don't have to have punchlines and jokes. You can look at the truth. So I can give you an example if we have time, if
Sure.
you've got, yeah. I was speaking at an event and we had the fire alarm went off the night before, and so we're all standing
That's
outside.
funny.
Well, not yet, not yet. I'm not at the punchline. So now you know that I've got the reputation of being very direct and a bit scary, right? Or that's the
Oh, I don't know
reputation
about
I like
scary.
to
You don't
portray.
scare me at all,
Well,
Marie.
that's my reputation. That's the one I'm trying to project. A bit scary, a bit standoffish, a bit. Don't get too close, right? Anyway, I'm downstairs. Fire alarm's gone off, and I'm in teddy bear pajamas. Right. And of course, Beth notices this. So she says, you've got to use it. You've got to use that tomorrow when you open the speech, to say, I'm just because you saw me in my teddy bear pajamas and my fluffy slippers does not mean that I am not the same scary, direct woman that I've always been.
That's
So,
funny.
yeah, and
That's
it
the
was
truth.
lovely. And it was truth. And also, it referred back to what we'd all been through, that we all had lack of sleep because we stood outside for 2 hours waiting for fire engines and things.
Somebody told me one time that all humor makes fun of someone or something. I mean, think about it, even self-deprecating humor, I'm making
Yeah.
fun of myself, which can be very amusing on stage. I always tell speakers, don't make fun of yourself too much, man, because you're supposed to have the power of the podium, and there's a balance there between acting the fool and
Absolutely.
getting rebooked, or,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
or speaker integrity, whatever you want to call it. Uh, the additional problem of the fact that, added to the fact that all humor makes fun of someone or something, is we live in sensitive times now. And Ricky Gervais does from your end of the world, does a nice bit on this where he talks about the difference between the target and the joke. And he says, just because I made a joke about something doesn't mean I'm making fun of the person. And he says a lot of people get that confused. It gets him in trouble a lot, so he's had to defend himself. This is what, to my mind, makes humor dangerous. I always tell people, don't tell jokes, tell funny stories. Leave the joke telling to professional comedians.
Totally agree. Totally agree. My teddy bear pajamas isn't a joke. It was just something that happened,
That's
right?
right. And it's a belly laugh. There's an old story about these old Jewish comedians who rate the laughs on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most funny. So the way they verbally have a shorthand, they say, "Give me a 7,
Oh,
write
brilliant.
me
I
a
love
5."
that.
You know?
Love that.
Okay, pretty cool. Um, let's talk about the overlap between speaking and writing because you have experience with both. Um, which one's easier, writing or speaking?
I think most people will agree that speaking is easier because it's what we do every day,
I
right?
agree.
We do it all the time. It is definitely easier. And also, once something's written, this is the problem with a book. Once it's published, I know where all the typos are. I know where all the grammatical errors are because I've pored over it again and I'm thinking I need to correct them. Once it's spoken, unless it's recorded and people are poring over it time and time again, it's sort of been and done and gone.
Yeah, like a radio show. The talk is like a radio show. The book is there for all time.
Mm,
Um,
that's tough. That made it very hard for me to stop correcting and writing and rewriting.
I came into a bit of insight by accident. I was doing all this speaker coaching, and we were teaching people this thing called signature stories. For those of you listening, unique, brief, and positive moral, those three attributes. But to build them out, to tell the story of what happened when you were 16 years old and the lesson you learned, it became a nice little piece. And if you in a 20-minute keynote, it might be a 5-minute story. And again, that's quite a chunk of verbiage. If you were ever thought it to write a book and you wanted your signature story in the book, that's a pretty easy transfer, especially if the signature story is well crafted. You just copy paste, man, to the book. Now you'd need, if you had a 10 chapter book, you'd need maybe 9 more signature stories to flesh it out. But that for me established a real connection between speaking content and writing content, book in particular. It could be blog articles, of course. It could be posts, these long, I call them confession posts now. Have you seen them?
So the confession post, what is this? The signature story? Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of like that, yeah. So the post on social, Facebook, you wouldn't see this stuff normally on Facebook. My wife just did it. She does nutrition coaching. She just did a post that begins, "When I was 15, I was in trouble." Well, that's a story about to happen. So
Yeah.
it ends up unfolding. This is my definition of a confession post. And by the way, I named that, so you could teach everybody over there that
Okay, all right. That's your term, so I'll tell them it's your term.
I was in trouble when I was 15, and then she had bulimic eating disorder. Now she's got to tell you why she was in trouble. She's got to give you some examples of how bad it was, and then she's got to tell you how she fixed it. That's going to take a minute.
Yeah.
So what you end up with these 5 or 6 paragraph social media posts, which is not typically a Facebook format, but they're very popular now over here.
I've seen them here too.
Okay, so they're familiar to you. And I think those are the start of what could be a killer signature story for any speaker. That's what we were talking earlier about. Let's say you're passionate about playing chess and you're trying to figure out how to get a paid keynote career out of it. You got to tell some amazing stories about chess and the lessons adjacent to chess and how you got beat up one time after a chess game by a chess bully and how your self-esteem suffered and how you learned other lessons as a result of chess. I don't think people build this out enough.
I think actually you could do an awful lot with chess because just the logical thinking and the strategy, and I think there's many topics you can relate to it. So you don't necessarily need to have stories about you playing chess, but how you can relate chess to strategy, relate chess to planning, to thinking, to viewing an opponent, to competition. I think there's many things you could do with that actually.
I'll think about black and white. If the pieces are black and white, you play chess?
No, this is why I can't go any deeper.
That's all right, I'll do the work. To decide who goes first in a chess game, white always goes first. Did you know that? Probably
I
not.
didn't know that. I do now.
Which is, well, forget, I'm taking you to the race thing, right? Black and white. You get to choose if you choose white, you get to go first. White privilege. I mean, This is what
Wow.
I think speakers need to get a bigger shovel and dig with a bigger shovel when they're uncovering their content. I know this from experience because of the number of people that come to me to write books, and the topics are always good at the start, but then I'm like, give me something else, give me something else. You know, this is a little too pedestrian, a little too fundamental. I think we stop thinking.
Oh, it's going to get worse, Michael, with AI doing a lot of thinking for us these days. I think there's a huge danger that we're going to stop thinking altogether.
I mean, think about this. Anything you get from AI, people, has already been written by somebody. AI is problematic in so many ways. I got a little thing, I'm fine, but I'm trying to problem solve with the doctor, so I'm doing my own research. And I want to, provide source material to the doc, because I know he's going to say, where did you read this? But the very first thing now in a Google search is not a source, it's an AI compilation of a bunch of stuff that AI thinks it is. And so my answer has to be AI, unless I go down to, say, Johns Hopkins University or the Cleveland Clinic, something that has a legitimate pedigree.
So
But
I've customized my ChatGPT and told him that whenever he gives me any information, does any research, he has to put the source in. So
what
I've
is,
always got the source.
oh, I love
So
it.
that, yeah, because he makes things up otherwise. I tell he's a he, by the way, and I tell him off.
Well, good for you. What do you make of people who are plagiarizing other people's content because they think it's public domain? If another person goes to the front of the room and says, first you have to find out the why without providing attribution to Simon Sinek, I'm going to lose it. And for a while there, for 20 years, they were Stephen Covey. They were saying, you need to begin with the end in mind. They put a slide up that says begin with the end in mind as if it was their content. It's not. And I think you give yourself credibility stripes when you say that it's Stephen Covey because it implies, even if you didn't, it implies you read his damn book, which is a point for the speaker. But pretending that it's yours and not, what do you say anything about that when you talk to people?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I think it's getting worse and worse. And sometimes, you hear things and people say things and they don't know what the source is, or they might have heard it amongst friends or family, for years, and they use it because they thought, oh, it's my friend said it. They don't necessarily know because people aren't necessarily as well read as they could be. It is a problem. It's a huge problem, and there's a speaker I know. I won't say who it is because I haven't got permission to share his name on this particular story, but he delivered a speech and he went to an event and he's sitting in the audience and there's a speaker on stage before him, and fortunately this particular speaker changes his speech every time. He tailors completely every time.
Oh,
It's
nice.
never the same speech twice. He's sitting in the audience, he's listening to the speech, he's thinking, this sounds familiar. And this person had taken a recording of his speech and had used word for word. So what he did, I'll tell you who it was afterwards if you like. But what he did is he went up to him afterwards and stood in front of him and shook his hand. He said, that was an excellent speech. And the guy just went puce in colour, as you can imagine, because he got caught out. I think you always get caught out, is my belief. Whenever you do anything wrong, you always get caught out. So don't do it.
I have a friend in Scottsdale, Arizona, who runs a dermatology clinic, and he told me of a salesperson that came in to give him his presentation, PowerPoint. And they sit down together. The story over here is that when the pharmaceutical person comes in, they buy you lunch or they buy the staff lunch for the privilege of doing a quick sales pitch. And so he puts the PowerPoint on, and my friend who runs the dermatology clinic started to watch his own slides in the salesperson's presentation.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's worse. That's
Yeah,
even worse.
I'm
Brilliant.
telling you, crime does not pay people. Plagiarism is stealing.
Yeah, it is. And it's worse now, of course, as you say, with AI, because you get things coming out and you quote them and use them and you don't necessarily know what the source is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Your book has how many chapters?
Oh gosh, do you know, I haven't counted them.
Roughly.
Hang on, roughly about 12, I think.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't work in numbers like that.
And what
And yeah,
feedback are you
something like that.
getting? Is one of them more popular than the others?
Yes, actually, it's interesting. The one that's probably the least, the one I thought would be the least popular, but it's the one on ego.
Oh, interesting. Now, why is that
Because
resonating
there's some
with folks?
stories in there about, as you mentioned, you opened with, in fact, when we spoke about the speaker, sleeping with their assistant, people are fascinated by bad behavior. And I could do an entire book on bad behavior, and people are horrified and think, I can't believe speakers behave that way, but they do because they believe. Again, you mentioned it, about the applause. They believe their own applause. They believe how great they are. They get often, and the ego grows and gets bigger and bigger, and they behave badly.
Yeah. I, I can't attribute this completely to ego, but I got my own funny story about that. It just came to mind. I hadn't planned on talking about this. Again, no names. But I'm doing like this. This is back in the day when I was getting started, and I did a joint speaker event with a bunch of other speakers, and we all flew into the airport at approximately the same time, four of us, two men, two women. And one of the guys was a comedian, kind of a performer personality anyway, and an alpha male, and he's the one that's going to drive. And while we're going to get the rental car, and he's performing, and he's busy doing his shtick, and he actually hits a car in the rental car parking lot and damages both because he feels the need to, like he's already on, which may have been ego related. I don't know. Maybe he was just nervous. Maybe he's always like this. Maybe he's just a bad driver, Maria. I don't know.
Could be just a bad driver. Yeah,
Probably.
absolutely.
But
Maybe
the
he's not used to a
ego,
stick.
yeah, right. The ego play, I think it wreaks havoc. We did talk about this at the beginning, and let's close with this too because it's a good bookend. Uh, that if you're in the business for the wrong reason, it just won't work, everybody. If you just want adulation and applause, you're working for the wrong thing. You've got to have content that resonates with people, that helps people. That's the only thing that will get you rebooked. That's the only thing that gets you the multiplier effect with the number of gigs that you're getting. Um, I'm sure you have tons of advice on this stuff. How do you help people get their ego under control?
Oh goodness.
What's the dose of reality that they can get that could help them with this?
Oh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? I think they've always got to remember that they're dealing with people at the end of the day, and this is a relationship business. It's always about relationships.
Yeah,
So you've got to if you always remember that it's about relationships and it's about relationship building, and treat people with respect.
yeah.
So I don't want to have to dictate to people what you have to do and what you don't have to do, but there's little things that you can do that keep you grounded. I mean, sending a thank you note. It keeps you grounded. A handwritten thank you note is wonderful. Acknowledging things, sort of just respecting other people's time. We could do a whole list, but I feel that when I'm dealing with professional speakers, I shouldn't have to teach them how to behave.
Yeah,
They should be professional.
like we
I
said
don't think
earlier.
it's my job. Maybe somebody else can do that bit. I don't want to teach them how to behave as decent professional people. I think that should be a requisite.
Well, I think you can
Minimum.
have high ego and still be a decent professional person. It's just that the high ego part is going to offset the other part. All the things that you just mentioned, four words, make it about them.
Mm,
Like when I sit on a plane and somebody sits down next to me, I can tell you in 2 minutes if they're a professional speaker because they all act the same. You do a bit of sales training. I always tell salespeople, if you don't want to be treated like a salesperson, stop acting like one. And
mm.
most speakers can't stop acting like a speaker. And it's the same brand of happy talk, and they'll ask you a few questions, but it's only so that they can talk about themselves in a minute. You know, those kind of people. And I have fun because I'm not saying I'm above all this. I have a pretty good ego myself. But there's a game I play on airplanes where I'm going to see how many questions I can ask you because I'm genuinely interested, and it's a game, but I am genuinely interested. How many questions can I ask you before you ask me one? And if it's a 2 hour flight and you never ask me a question, it's okay. It's good practice for me. And when you're on stage, I think, and you're in front of an audience, that's what I think of it this way. Maybe you do too. That sure, I'm sending signals, but I should be receiving as many signals as I can. The audience is talking to you, man. Don't you think?
It's a conversation.
Oh,
Absolutely.
100%. Tell me more about the conversation from the audience.
Well, I think you have to be intuitive. You have to be emotionally intelligent, really, and you can see it. You can see it in people's body language. You can see if they're leaning in. You can see if they're paying attention. I have got it wrong in the past myself. I remember one time there was somebody in the front row, and I was speaking, and he was on his phone like this.
Yeah,
And I was talking about show reels, and I was saying, the problem with show reels is that sometimes you have people in the audience who are doing the wrong thing for you. You don't want somebody in the audience sitting there on their phone. It looks really bad, like they're tweeting and doing their emails. And I'm standing right in front of him saying, like this guy here, I wouldn't want him in my show reel like that. And he looks up at me and says, Maria, I'm making notes.
oh,
It was fantastic. It was a great line. It was, I'm making notes. I said, yeah, but it still looks bad on a show reel. So you can get it
I loved
wrong.
what you did there, this setup, because sometimes you can't afford to have people in the front row sleeping. It's just bad for the room. And there's clever ways to pull people out of it, and clever ways to call attention to people. But you're right. You get those verbals from people that they're not paying attention. Sometimes it's an audible. They're side chats. Sometimes it's just instinct. They're not with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we all know, hopefully, people listening today know this thing call and response. You can get them to actually play your game until you're dancing together, and then you can get into your content. Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough when they're not with you, and sometimes they're not with you because they've just had some bad news, or you don't know what's always going on for the client people. I've booked speakers where they've not been allowed to sit in previous sessions and then been brought in to speak, and they won't think this audience didn't react, nobody was doing it, and they've just been told half of them were going to be made redundant. You can't always win the audience over, especially when they're an audience who has to be there rather than chooses to be there.
yeah. So we're learning all the time. We're paying attention to these little clues about who we are and how we could be better. Your book is going to help millions of people. I just know it.
I don't know if there's millions of speakers, but hey.
Where are you in the United Kingdom?
I'm in a lovely village in the middle of the Surrey countryside, surrounded by fields and cattle and corn, and it's a typical quintessential little village.
Lovely. I hope we get a chance to meet sometime. I'm not scheduled to come back to the UK right now, but maybe soon, and I'll let you know, okay?
That would be great because I should be very offended if you don't let me know.
And do you have any trips coming over here? Any speaking engagements?
Not at the moment, no, but you never know, it might all change.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. I need it.
It's Maria Franzoni, everybody. Her book is called The Bookability Formula. She's amazing online, very easy to find. FRAN as in Nancy, ZON as in Nancy, E.
I.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I had written E in my notes. Paisan,
Yes, very good.
so
Well,
nice spending time with you today.
and you, thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.